foil added to the top. So the paper has the properties of gold. Most of the raw materials used in making paper money are made of bamboo leaves or other crop fibers. So the paper money has the properties of wood. When making paper, water is also essential because of the need to make pulp. So paper money has the properties of water. When the paper money is burned, it must have the property of fire. After the paper money is burned, there must be ashes, which are the property of the earth. Then we talk about yin and yang. The paper money is physical before it is burned. It belongs to yang after it is burned. Part of the paper money has turned into air. After burning, part of the paper money has been turned into air. And this part is called yin. Thus, this form of burning paper money contains the Chinese Taoist theory of yin and yang, the 5 elements. Many foreign users are curious about why the Chinese burn paper money. And on this issue, we'll have a good chat about it. First of all, let's talk about the Chinese Han folklore. The belief in the practice of burning paper originated from the ancient Chinese Eastern Han dynasty. It is said that the inventor of paper technology Cai Lun had a disciple called Yu Xiao Chai. To sell the paper produced by his master, he came up with a peculiar sales method. Fake death. Yu Xiao Chai first pretended to die of a serious illness. And then his wife told all the neighbors that if the paper was cut into the shape of a copper coin and burned, the dead person could come back to life. The neighbors were not very cultured, but certainly did not believe. This sounded like a lie. Where there is the matter of the dead and come back to life. I don't know if it was the good arrangement of the funeral hall or his wife's eloquence. But his wife started to burn paper money while convincing the neighbors. And Yu Xiao Chai was genuinely revived. But where did the resurrection come from? There are several versions of this legend. But they only change the protagonist. Either Cai Lun himself or Cai Lun's brother Cai Mo. These stories were considered to be mere country legends and not credible. More convincing is the book Feng's Record of Hearing and Seeing of the Tang Dynasty, which records that it was common in ancient China to bury jades, coins, and silk books in tombs to sacrifice to ghosts and gods, and that coins and treasures were also used as burial goods during the Han Dynasty in ancient China. During the Wei Jin and North-South dynasties in ancient China, it became fashionable to use paper money to bury the deceased. And this time was expressed in the form of scattering paper money. And during the Tang Dynasty, both princes and nobles or common people, all began to use the form of burning paper for burial on a large scale. I have looked up the information. And the change from burying money to burning paper money is supposed to be connected to Buddhism. But there is no such thing as burning paper money in Buddhism. Some scholars believe that Buddhism became the state religion during the Tang Dynasty. And it was also from that time that the form of burning paper became prevalent. And it is supposed to be influenced by the customs in India or Central Asia. But people in India or Central Asia only believed that through the fire they could pass offerings to ghosts and gods. And there was no such thing as burning money, such as the Brahmin god of fire, Ajani, who could pass items. The paper money itself came from China, and the influence of foreign customs, combined with the theories of the native Chinese religion Taoism, resulted in a unique form of burning paper money. The fact that paper was invented by the Chinese should not be disputed. But now the best rice paper in the world is produced in Japan. It can be said that the emergence of paper has directly promoted the process of historical civilization. It is genuinely surprising that paper, as a carrier presenting two-dimensional flat information, can influence the three-dimensional world and four-dimensional space-time. This phenomenon of burning paper can be said to be unique to China, or Chinese Taoism, among all the people and religious cultures of the world. In Taoism, The burning of paper has a special meaning. The teachings of Taoism have the righteousness of yin and yang, the 5 elements, in which everything is contained in time, and they affect each other, creating a complex relationship of movement and transformation. And the burning of paper money contains this righteousness. The classical Chinese paper money is mostly white, with some tin foil added to the top. So the paper has the properties of gold. Most of the raw materials used in making paper money are made of bamboo leaves or other crop fibers. So the paper money has the properties of wood. When making paper, water is also essential because of the need to make pulp. So paper money has the properties of water. When the paper money is burned, it must have the property of fire. After the paper money is burned, there must be ashes, which are the property of the earth. Then we talk about yin and yang. The paper money is physical before it is burned. It belongs to yang after it is burned. Part of the paper money has turned into air. After burning, part of the paper money has been turned into air, and this part is called yin. Thus, this form of burning paper money contains the Chinese Taoist theory of yin and yang, the 5 elements. Paper unfolded on a flat surface can be written and drawn on, and can carry a lot of information. In Taoism, many spells require the incineration of talismanic instruments, and the basic principle of doing so is to achieve the purpose of sensing heaven and earth, characters, and mobilizing the forces of the universe using the operational transformation process of the 5 elements in nature. A monk with profound power only needs to incinerate a talisman as a medium to generate various magical effects, which is what the old Chinese folk call high magic power or spirituality. The paper in the burning paper does not only refer to paper money but also many different styles. For example, it will be made in the shape of a gold dollar, emulating the currency in circulation nowadays. Human figures, houses. The purpose is to comfort the souls of people who have passed away. And in this case, Murray believes it is more a psychological activity of these descendants who want to find comfort for themselves as well. Some of the charms will have images of the gods and are intended to think about drawing on the spirit's magical powers to rejuvenate the soul. Taoism believes that the light and heat emitted during the burning of the paper will neutralize the yang energy of the yin attribute of the soul, allowing the soul to rise quickly with the fire, relieving it of the misery of sinking underground, and thus gaining the power of renewal. In China, some of these things are considered superstitions. But now there is a new discipline, metaphysics. I believe that for the moment, superstition is a phenomenon that is not explained by science or a field of study for metaphysics. After all, many voices suggest that the end of science is metaphysics. Chinese folk time to burn paper is also fixed. Not that just any paper can be burned. My place every year will be in the Chinese traditional holiday New Year's Eve day afternoon. Because the living people think that the young world is going to New Year's Eve. Buy New Year's goods. The ancestors in the netherworld also need to buy New Year's goods. So to burn some paper money to the ancestors. The economy is generous. To buy what you want to buy. On the first day of the 10th month of the lunar calendar. At this time of the year, it is already cold in most parts of China. And the descendants of future generations have to burn some cotton clothes to their ancestors to keep them warm. Some people once did not believe in it and then dreamed of their relatives shivering in the cold wind at night. I have seen it many times. Qingming Festival, which goes without saying. In China, Qingming Festival is a national holiday for people to go back to their hometowns to pay respect to their ancestors. And if it is in the cemetery, people will adopt the Chinese now advocate if it is in a cemetery. People will use the civilized way of worship such as offering flower baskets. But those who choose to be buried in the countryside are still accustomed to burning paper. There is also the mid-year festival, which is called the Ghost Festival in Chinese folklore and is the most yin day of the year. It is said that this day is the festival of collective activities of all kinds of ghosts. So since it is a collective activity, it must be funded so to burn paper. And when you go to burn paper, it must be completely dark before you can go. And to burn paper on the way, cannot talk to anyone. In the Chinese 24 festivals in the winter solstice this day, also to burn paper, also called winter paper. In ancient China, grassroots management was not entirely dependent on officials, but on the patriarch of a large clan. In a village, it was not the officials who had the most say, but the local gentry, who were the real managers. And when something happened in the village, they did not think of the government, but the clan. In ancient China, it was a small farmer economy, which made it impossible for a traditional ancient Chinese to leave the clan, unless you were expelled from the clan. And in ancient times, if a person was not accepted by the clan, he or she would be bullied because he or she had no background. It is also because of these histories that the Chinese have a strong view of family and clan. In other words, without the achievements made by their ancestors, there will be no better life for future generations. So the Chinese attach great importance to their ancestors. Also, ancestor worship is a means to unite the clan. Only at the time of ancestor worship, the scattered clan will come back. And relatives and friends who have not seen each other for a long time can get together to chat and maintain their friendship with each other in this way. Any activity requires a sense of ritual. If there is no ritual, then these activities will seem very ordinary. So to increase the sense of ritual, the ancient Chinese chose the traditional custom of buried money, and added the ritual of burning paper, which has developed to become a custom now. If I don't burn the paper, my father will beat me up for disrespecting my ancestors. What kind of thinking does the burning of paper reflect on the Chinese people? Firstly, Chinese people attach great importance to their feelings, which are inseparable from the small farmer economy in ancient China and have been passed down to the present. Secondly, Chinese people attach importance to the value of history, and the deceased can be said to represent history. So visiting the grave is to respect and review history. Thirdly, Chinese people attach great importance to the concept of tradition. Fourthly, Chinese people are conservative in their thinking. But this also exists at the age of my father's generation. Although contemporary Chinese young people will retain the tradition, the thinking is not conservative. Fifthly, Chinese people have the concept of wealth. The meaning of burning paper is to bring more wealth to their ancestors. Sixthly, Chinese people are realistic and materialistic, preferring to express their inner activities by doing and practical action. Seventh, Chinese people have a strong moral concept. And the foundation of Chinese society is first and foremost morality and law, with law and morality going hand in hand. That's all about why Chinese people burn the paper. Thanks for reading. I don't know if those of you in front of the screen have learned the reason. If you still have questions, feel free to leave a comment below the video. If you want to know anything about China, you can also leave a comment below. If more people want to know, I will do a separate episode.